Man, I still got to get used to that intro now, going from the Around the 412 one to the one that we use for the Fantasy Football Show. But what's up, everybody? It is your boy Smitty from Around the 412. This is the Around the 412 Fantasy Football Show. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Joe Frick, Drew Hannes. What's up, boys?
What's happening? We've made it. It's football season. It's a great time to be alive. Let's rock, man. I'm ready.
We have made it. We got a lot going for you guys this week. The bottom of your screen, you will see the Fricker ticker going at all times. You will notice that the positions on that ticker are going to change. We got our top 10 quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end rankings. And I know what you're thinking. They're not going to be each of ours individually, but rather Joe has done the unthinkable for us and been able to group our rankings together and give us a cumulative of what those would be. So that's what we got going on at the bottom. You will see that some of them are tied. Like right now we have like Rogers Allen with what's going on at the bottom right now. So that's why it stops at 9 and not 10. But anyways, how do we want to kick this thing off? What do you guys think?
I think let's get with the bold predictions. Let's get people fired up. Let's hear what we have to say.
I'm excited for Drew's bold predictions. I'm excited for Drew's bold predictions. I'll tell you that much. No, but okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's just go around. I guess we can do one at a time. I'm excited to see what the comments think about some of these bold predictions. That's for sure. The first one that I came up with, I know Drew's gonna love this one. Let's look at the tight end position real quick. I'm gonna say Logan Thomas finishes a top 3, not just top 5 tight end this year. That's my bold prediction.
And he's coming in as like tight end 7 out of the draft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking people are going to see that as like insane because you're talking about one of Kittle, Kelsey, or Waller not being in that top 3, if that's the case. Right.
Yeah, and then you're also assuming that like Hawkinson doesn't take that step forward. Pitts kind of does the rookie tight end thing. Mark Andrews could pop off and have a bunch of touchdowns. He just signed to an extension yesterday or today. So, they signed him for 4 years. So. I like it. It's a fun one. I like Logan Thomas. He was 5th in targets last year. I mean, he definitely has a better ball thrower. Sorry to all the Haskins truthers out there, probably on the pod, but a little step up going with Fitz magic. We were talking a little bit about him before the show, so I don't know, Drew, if that might kind of lead you into our to another one here. If you want to take that.
Yeah. So I was going to start with one of my more sensical predictions, but if you want to lead me into that, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick might be a top 10 quarterback this year. On points per game basis last year, he was QB 11. And I think he has way more weapons around here. Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, as you mentioned, and Curtis Samuel, obviously Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. I think that he's actually going to come out and surprise some people, and they're going to throw the football, and he's going to put some points up on the board. And he's definitely a viable streamer week to week.
Yeah, I like it, especially the defenses that he's going to be facing with that division, garbage. So he definitely has the gunslinger mentality. It could happen.
Do you think that is this his last year? You think he's going to have a top 10 fantasy finish and then call it a career, hang him up?
No, I mean, it depends on where they go a quarterback for next year, but I think Fitzmagic's going to wake some people up and be like, maybe he'll get a second deal. Who knows?
Okay. All right, Joe. Let's hear one of yours.
All right, so I think this could ruffle some feathers, but I don't think that Javonte Williams will usurp Melvin Gordon at any point this season. So I don't think that Melvin Gordon's just going to go away. He is in the last year of a contract. He is somebody that has performed. I think from a coach speak perspective, they're saying all the right things about Javonte. Oh, he can do this. Oh, he can do that. But ultimately, I think at best it's going to be a split backfield where they're sharing. There's some carries that are getting shared. But I don't think that he's just going to give up that throw. And I think they're going to work him into the ground, run him till he pukes kind of mentality, and it's going to hamper both of them from a fantasy perspective. So I'm pretty low on both of the Denver running backs at this point.
I mean, you were definitely right about it being ruffling some feathers. I saw the look on Drew's face for a little bit there. I know Tyler Hurley has him as fantasy as well.
I agree. I agree with that. During the pre-draft process, I was low on him because I didn't think that he was being drafted at the right spot, but I do have a lot of shares of him because he did fall in a lot of leagues. So it's in.
Yeah, Tyler in the comments just said he has him in like every league, so all 3 leagues.
I love you, Tyler. I'm sorry, but this is the bold and the beautiful time.
Okay, another one of mine then here. Let's take a look at the wide receivers. And you guys know I've talked about him on this show a lot already, and we're very early in this thing. Darnell Mooney, all right? So is this really that high? I think by the time that we get to the end of the season, you're going to think, oh, this is pretty reasonable. Darnell Mooney with a top 25 finish amongst receivers.
Oh, okay.
It's going to depend on when Fields comes out.
It's going to, absolutely. Like, I think that his rookie season mirrors a lot of what we saw in Deonte Johnson in 2019, his rookie season. Like, you turn on the tape, this dude's always open. Like, he finds the blind spots on these corners. No one can cover him, but they couldn't get him the football at a high level.
What you're saying is that this year he's going to lead the NFL in drops, right?
No, that's not. No, that's not what. He's not going to be year 2 Deonte in terms of that. Hey, I mean, if he does, and he can still be a top 25 fantasy.
He's going to be top 5 in targets, lead the NFL in drops, and he's going to be like a wide receiver too. I'll take it.
Yeah, give me that all day. All right, keep it rolling.
So I'll do one of my more sensible ones. I think Dak Prescott is going to be the top quarterback in fantasy this year, and I'll keep it simple. Ezekiel Elliott. Dog.
Oh
Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb. Dog. Blake Jarwin and Michael Gallup. They're dogs. He has so many weapons.
You can't lump in Michael Gallup with Blake Jarwin. They gotta be separate there.
Blake Jarwin's built like a linebacker, but he can catch the ball. He's a dog. The Cowboys defense, most importantly, they are not dogs, and they are going to have a ton of high-scoring games. He was on pace to throw for 7,000 yards last year. He's going to throw the ball a ton, and he's going to be the top quarterback in fantasy this year.
I don't have a problem with that, honestly. Like, I think it's reasonable to expect a top 5 finish for sure. You say top 3, I can get on board with that. Top 1, sure, why not? The only thing is, is he going to do, especially coming off that ankle injury, is he going to do enough? Because these other guys, they add that running element to their, they add 5 points plus just with their legs. Is he going to do that? And if he doesn't, can he make that up? With
a lot of rushing touchdowns. When they get close and he finds a lane, he'll go in there. He's not afraid. And he doesn't run like a crazy amount, but he was a top 2 quarterback before he got hurt last year.
Mm-hmm. Tyler said if that happens, I'm winning my free league easily. Well, you need to make that league not free then.
True that. All right, so I guess we're kind of on this receiver train. Mine is going to be, so Los Angeles Chargers have released their depth chart. Josh Palmer won the wide receiver 3 job. So I'm going to put Josh Palmer, top 30 receiver going into the year.
Top 30?
So I love what I've seen from him in the preseason. I think he's going to do really well. I think he could even overtake Mike Williams. Just hasn't really been able to get it done. He's kind of a one-trick pony. So I think he's going to really elevate that offense, especially with the departure of Hunter Henry. A lot of targets that are going to have to go somewhere, and Keenan Allen can only eat so much. So I think it's going to be a big year out of Josh Palmer. Excited to see what he can do, not only this year, but moving forward from a dynasty perspective as well.
Yeah, they spent a 3rd-round pick on him. And, I know a lot of people didn't have him going in that range, but the fact that they did, I mean, they obviously like him. So we always say on this show, follow the money. But when you invest, I mean, that's a decent bit of draft capital. It's the same pick the Steelers would have spent on Deonte Johnson back in 2019. They're going to utilize this guy. Mike Williams is in his last year there. This guy's got to get incorporated in that offense. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. This could very well be a guy that we're talking about on the waiver wire here, because I don't think he's getting drafted in many leagues. You got to be in a pretty deep 14-team league, I think, to see him go. So
I don't even think he's in our dynasty. I don't think that he's rostered.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think he's rostered in our dynasty. I'm pretty certain.
Oh wow.
Yeah. As Joe
was on a podcast right now.
All right, so I have one for each position. I probably should preface by saying that my running back one is going to be Jonathan Taylor does not finish inside the top 15 running backs.
Ooh. Wow.
I hope you're wrong.
Nothing
I have
on
Jonathan
Carson?
Taylor in the league too, so
what's the hesitancy there? You just not a Carson believer, or?
I don't know that he's going to do enough as a receiver. like Nyheim Hines still is going to have his role, I think. I think that we're going to see a lot of both of them being on the field at times. I just don't think that they're going to run as much as we're expecting. Even I don't think that he's going to like carve that much into it, but do they even find a nice little role there for Marlon Mack coming back? Like he was a decent player for them before he tore his Achilles.
Right. Mack was
he's
great.
not going to be able to, he's not going to be capable of having much of a workload. We talked about, coming back from these types of injuries all the time. Marlon Mack, obviously, is not going to have to worry about carrying much of a workload, but I'm just wondering if he's going to carve out a decent role for himself there. And obviously Nyheim Hines' role as a receiver.
And the Colts don't care. Like they're just gonna throw people out there. They don't feel like, at least from what we've seen from Reich, like he's not like a bell cow person. Like even last year, he had a 3-person rotation with Wilkins. Even when Taylor was there, you saw Matt go down. Like he didn't just get the role, even though he was a 2nd-round pick. So yeah, I mean, I could see it. I think Taylor will dominate the pie there, but that doesn't mean they're just going to script these other guys out of the rotation. It's just not the way they do things.
And here's another thing too. I have Jonathan Taylor inside my top 15 of my rankings, but I'm saying I feel like there is a path to this happening.
It's in the realm of possibility. I mean, Carson Wentz has had a brutal last few years. I think that they're going to want to pound the rock and take the pressure off for him, and that's what I'm hoping for. And I own Taylor in quite a few leagues, so that's what I'm banking on.
I mean, if he gets the volume, absolutely. We know how talented he is. My question with Jonathan Taylor the entire time, like when he was coming out, has always been his long-term projection because of how much mileage he has on those wheels coming out.
Right.
But yeah, in the short term, I think he's going to be a great running back in this league. It's just my concern, not concern so much, but the path that I see to this happening would be Nyheim Hines pretty much takes away any type of receiving from Jonathan, any and all receiving work from Jonathan Taylor, and they find a way to bring Marlon back into the fold.
Yeah. I think Jonathan Taylor has a lot of touchdown equity this year, and hopefully that takes care of those passing down work that he's going to lose to Hines. Hines is a douche. I hate him. I'm sick of him. But I'll move on to my next one. I have Raheem Mostert as a bold prediction, does not get injured this year and becomes a top 10 running back.
That in itself is bold.
I hope so. He's such a fun player to watch. Like when he's on the field, like he's electric. I think he's the fastest.
He's easily the fastest. Yeah, 100%.
So it's like they get him out into space. They use all those different like jet sweep motions that like as Steelers fans we're hoping to see like more of this year with Matt Canada's offense. But I mean, he is a perfect fit for the Shanahan offense if he can stay healthy. I mean, that's been the big knock on him. That's why they drafted Sermon. But I mean, that can't be good for Sermon if he is able to stay on the field. They will get touches, but Mostert's going to dominate that just because he's so dynamic.
Absolutely. Wait, Joe, what was your next one?
I have Miami Dolphins top 5 defense.
Oh,
so
defense, huh?
Yeah. So I think that from like a defensive perspective, they're kind of flying under the radar. They took a huge leap last year. We're expecting better quarterback play from Tua. And I think you saw that with a lot of teams that have like stronger defenses that they were good, but they really struggled from a fantasy perspective just because of bad quarterback play. You look at the Jets last year, you look at the Giants last year, even this someone like the Dolphins. I mean, they have a lot of talent there, but when you're on the field for most of the game, you're going to get gassed, and then you're getting torched at the end of games, and that's just going to run them into problems. I think the Dolphins could be a playoff team this year, at least be like in that wild card hunt. They've only added more pieces to that, and I think Flores is an underrated coach. So I think that they're going to take that next step. They have a fairly easy division outside of the Bills with 2 rookie quarterbacks, so there's a lot of room for some big weeks from them. So outside of the first week, they've got New England, then they go to Buffalo, but then it's like back to Vegas. So pretty solid schedule all the way around. I think they're going to have a big year.
I don't have much to add because I like the pick.
Yeah.
Big fan of B-Flow and the Miami Dolphins, what they're building there. Okay, so for my last one, obviously we're going to go to the quarterback room. Russell Wilson finishes outside the top 10.
Wow.
The fall from grace of the second half of the last season just continues for a full season in 2021.
Even with the new coordinator. Wow.
I think they're going to run the ball because of how the end of last season went. Honestly, I think Chris Carson is going to have a big year. And
I feel like it's also I don't know if it's because I have had Russell Wilson last year, because I had Tyler Lockett last year, but I'm just like down on that offense in general. Like until I see it. Like I like DK Metcalf, he comes in at what, like wide receiver 6 or 7 for most people. I have a hard time buying into it right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what the new offensive coordinator can bring to the table. I think that what will probably save Russ is that he doesn't run like he used to in his younger years, but he does enough to score the touchdowns, to put up some yards. He'll get the first down, do the I'm going to reach for the first down and then get out of the way kind of thing. So I think that's kind of where, like, from a fantasy perspective and from a league perspective too, that's where you're where it's moving into. Like, you need people that are mobile enough. I think that's kind of the limiting factor with Justin Herbert, for example. Like, is he going to run enough to be able to get into that top 5 conversation? Mahomes does just enough to run, but like your Tannehills, Brady, like you're not going to see that kind of rushing attack from them. So that really limits the upside. So I think that might save Russ a bit, but you got a lot of young quarterbacks that got some more legs on him. Even someone like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, look what he did the last 2 years at Clemson. Like, he was running a lot. I expect Urban Meyer to continue to do stuff like that. So if they're putting up a lot of rushing touchdowns, that could eat into that and bump them up in the rankings too.
Jalen Hurts as well.
Yeah.
Curious to see what Burrow's mobility looks like.
I can't believe that he's playing.
I mean, he's going to be running for his life if he can behind that
Yeah.
offensive line.
If only there was a top draft pick available that was like a perennial talent for the left tackle. It's crazy. Now they got this guy that
maybe
can't
next year.
passes. Maybe.
All right, where are we at? You guys got anything more?
I don't have any more bold predictions.
I'll just throw out my last one just to please Joe Frick. We've heard a lot of buzz about a certain wide receiver over in Arizona.
It's not any of the ones you'd think.
Darnell Mooney. I think AJ Green has a comeback season and is going to surprise some people. I don't really have a good number at which he'll be in the top. I threw some numbers out there and I got laughed at. But I think that AJ Green, let's just say top, I think he'll be a suitable flex option near the midway through the season. He'll be looked at as a flex option.
So top 30.
That's like 30, yeah, somewhere in the 30s.
I don't have anything to say to you.
I'm either going to look like a moron or a god. So I choose the risk and try to be a god.
Yeah, I mean, higher risk, higher reward, I guess.
A lot of buzz out of camp about AJ Green. And
is it just Donnie Druin? Is that who's creating this buzz that you're talking about? Is it just him?
It actually was. The last article I looked at was from SI, so that's funny. Maybe it is.
Yeah, it was probably just Donnie drumming up some fake hype with his fake news over there.
Podcast now.
All right, so moving on. You guys wanted to talk a little bit about like lineup construction heading into week 1 here. Joe, I know that pretty much just the mindset is don't overthink it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 big pieces of advice going for the week. The first is don't overthink it as far as like the projections. What am I going to do if these players are ranked next to each other? How am I going to set that lineup? Everybody's guessing at this point. They haven't seen how teams have played like in a real game. I mean, preseason happened, but a lot of that offense, we don't really know what's going to happen. So start the players that you're confident in. You don't want to just go off the cuff and do Tyson Williams because of what we've seen like in the preseason. It's like it's not worth it. So stick to your guns. Play the people that you think are going to give you the best chance at winning, and then move on with it. Don't try to do anything crazy. On a separate note, this is something that we didn't talk about before the show, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. For new players, something I think that's important that doesn't really get talked about a lot is the flex position and how that can impact early games. Speaking particularly for like the Thursday night game, if you have a player that you're considering putting in the flex position and they're playing on Thursday, or if there's like a game that's on a Saturday for whatever reason, or if they're even in that 1 o'clock slot, do not put them in your flex. If you have a last minute injury or something that comes up and you already have that person in that flex role, they're already played their lock, they can't move, you could run the risk of not being able to address a player, or you might have to play a worse option because you're locking into the receiver or running back piece for your lineup. So if you have somebody going on the Thursday night game for Dallas or for Tampa Bay, put them in their true spots, even if you don't think that they're like the top 2 wide receiver, top 2 running back, just that if something crazy happens going into Sunday, that you have that lineup flexibility.
Yeah, Drew, do you have anything else to add to that? Because I do want to get to some of the comments here, because I know Tyler's been in here, I think, since the start, and he's added a lot to the conversation. It's just, I've been ignoring him, if you will.
Yeah, we can jump on Tyler's questions, and then after that, we can start to overthink Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
After
so, yeah, just going through pretty much all the comments here since we've started about 20 minutes ago. Let's see. Should I start AB or Hawkinson in a league that doesn't require tight ends?
I would hold off until we see what's going on with Chris Godwin to make that decision.
So Godwin has been diagnosed with a quad injury. They held him out. As far as we know, Bruce Arians said that everybody's good to go. So I don't anticipate there being any setbacks. I'm expecting everybody to play. AB also got a rest day today as well. I think that's just more of like a veteran thing. But I'm expecting all of the receivers for Tampa Bay to be rostered in the lineup without any hesitation. So
I read right before the show that Godwin was not on the injury report on Monday, and they're afraid that the quad came up today in practice. So there's not a lot of clarity as to what's going on with Godwin yet, and we won't know more until Thursday.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, from like a matchup perspective, Dallas secondary is awful. So I think the biggest thing becomes, all right, who is the player that you want for Tampa Bay? Knowing that they have that really solid matchup, because Evans could score 3 touchdowns and AB could not see the ball. AB could have a big game. Godwin could do his thing. So I think that there's a lower floor but a higher opportunity for like a big week if you pick the right guy. We just don't know how that offense is going to split out. I think from like a projection standpoint, from PPR, I think Hawkinson is going to have the highest projection. We know that he's probably going to be the target getter. That being said, San Francisco is a pretty tough openings per team to go against for the tight ends. So I think if I need the floor from a lineup construction, I would probably play Hawkinson. If it's close and I'm looking for a little bit more upside, then I'm probably rolling AB. I could see AB being the best receiver from a fantasy perspective for the Bucs, but I would rather hold on to him and see that happen before I'm throwing him into my lineups, because he could put up 20, he could put up 2.
Hawkinson, I mean, you could see that. Drew could see AJ Green being a wide receiver 1. I mean,
I didn't see
No, I know. Now I'm just twisting your words.
I can't wait to fall back on this later in the season. It's gonna be great.
So, Drew, what do you think? How does your opinion change if Godwin is ruled out? Does that make you feel more comfortable throwing AB in there?
So I personally think that this game on Thursday night is going to be a shootout. I think that the Cowboys are going to have to stay with Brady. I think that Brady's going to put up 30 points. And I think that all 3 of those wide receivers in Tampa Bay are going to eat. It's just going to be a matter of who gets the touchdowns. I think they're all going to get a lot of targets. If one of those guys is ruled out, I think Evans and Brown should be started in all lineups.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah.
Like, not that I disagree with it being a shootout, but like these early season games are just so tough. Like the first game of the season, like, is the offense going to be gelling? But you can look at the other side of the ball for that too, I guess, as well. Like, how willing are guys going to be to actually go in there and tackle and play physical on defense? Like, it's just
they're getting their Super Bowl rings. I think the Bucs are going to be fired up. I think Brady's going to be fired up. I think
returning literally everybody.
I mean, Brady. I had Brady as a top 5 quarterback this week. I think they're gonna kill it on Thursday night, and I think it's gonna be.
I have him. I don't know where I had him. I have him somewhere around the range. Let me pull up the quarterbacks real quick and see where he came in for a total. 4 total. So yeah. AJ said my bold prediction: Deonte Johnson leads the Steelers in receptions after leading the league in drops last year.
Well, I had one of my bold predictions that he was going to lead the NFL in receptions earlier, but we just didn't get to that one. So I'm with him.
Yeah,
Tyler said his. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think that the expectation is that he will lead the team in receptions. Will it be in yards or touchdowns? I think.
Yeah, I think had he said touchdowns, that'd be a lot more. No, had he said touchdowns, he did say. Tyler's bold prediction. I've been saying it for a while. Donald Parham takes over for Cook by week 7 as tight end.
I don't even know who that is.
So I think he's the one that was playing in the XFL, I believe.
Okay.
He's like 6'9".
Yeah, he's big.
He's massive. But he signed with the Chargers, I think I think he saw game action last year a little bit too. But he's just like, he's a freak athlete.
Okay.
I mean, at this point in Cook's career, like, I guess it wouldn't surprise me. Like, obviously, Donald Parham is more familiar with the system, being that he was there last year. I don't know.
It's bold. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what that was supposed to be, I guess. So, good point.
I mean,
Tyler's also high on Gerald Everett. That's not somebody that we've really talked about, but yeah, he made the move to Seattle. We were talking about Seattle's passing attack. In the current tight end landscape, wouldn't even be shocked to see him finish as a tight end one. I thought that said tight end one at first. And I was big. Let's pump the brakes on the Everett hype. But I mean, yeah, we talk about it all the time, right? Like outside those top like 5 or 6, it's like completely up in the air who's going to be those last spots in the top 10.
I think for me, if they didn't have Metcalf, so like you think about like when tight ends were really peppered with targets, like they only really had like one receiver for them. So now that Everett, it would be like a third option there. I think he could have weeks where he pops off, but it is going to be tough. I think he could definitely leapfrog some guys like Austin Hooper, Mike Gesicki, depending on how like the Hunter Henry, Johnny Smith situation works out. Even Tanyan, if he doesn't have like the same touchdown kind of prowess that he did last year, he could definitely move up in the ranks. But I mean, Russ likes the tight end. I mean, he's made Hollister, a bunch of other random guys that you never really considered relevant. Greg Olsen was great with them for so many years. So I think it's a point of comfort. It's just how much is he going to be a focal point of that offense? And to me, it's like, why would you not be using Metcalf whenever you can?
I hear you. Okay, yeah, XFL superstar. He had 10 catches last year. He scored 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's if he could keep up that type of pace every 10 receptions.
That's like Orange Julius whenever he was with Peyton Manning. It's like every time he threw him the ball, it was a touchdown.
Oh, man. Julius Thomas. What a throwback, man. What year was that? Was that 2015 or 2016?
Yeah, that was like Peyton's first season in Denver.
Oh, so like, because 2015 was his last. So, yeah, that was probably like 2012 or 13.
Yeah.
2013.
It was just
Indy drafted Luck in 12. So, yeah, it would have had to have been like, unbelievable. What a blast from the past name to bring up there. Do we have anything else here? Him playing with Origin before at least makes it a little more interesting. Definitely wrong. Okay, yeah. So moving on, what do we got next? Let's talk about some injury updates, I guess. Or no, let's answer some questions from Twitter since we're on the train of answering questions right now. Let me pull them up. I don't want to miss them. I know I have to apologize to everybody last week that we didn't answer the questions. We got the live questions. However, we forgot that we asked for questions and then just straight up didn't answer them. Ricky, I like this. Justin Herbert finishes the regular season as the highest scoring fantasy quarterback, says Ricky Duncan.
Wow.
Thoughts?
I would probably frick that pick.
No, frick it.
But, I mean, he does have the potential. I mean, he scrambled enough. I don't know. If he were to do it, he's going to need like 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards passing. Like, he's not going to have 500 rushing yards, so he's going to have a fantastic aerial attack. I mean, they have the tools for it, but I could see him sliding top 4 or 5 maybe. I think his cap is going to be the 4th. I think Murray runs too much. Jackson runs too much. Even like Dak, like he gets a lot of rushing looks. Mahomes, Allen, you're getting a lot of touchdowns there, so from the ground. So I don't think he can run enough to make up for it, and I don't think that he's going to go Tom Brady on the league with Randy Moss. So
yeah, I agree.
Okay. What else do we got here? Season long, Najee finishes as a top 5 running back. Okay, like that one. Okay, like that's fine. Big Pat Freiermuth, top 10 tight end. I got to let me preface that this is a Steeler fan. My boy Dougie Fresh.
I'm shocked.
I don't have either one of those things happening. Obviously, Najee's going to be closer to a top 5 running back than Pat is to a top 10 tight end. Let's see Pat play more snaps than Ebron before we start even talking about this.
Yeah, I mean,
which I do think does happen.
Number 6 target on the team
to start. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you got what? Juju, Claypool, Deonte, Najee, Ebron, then maybe Freiermuth. Derek Watt, like, one bubble screen a season, so like that's a target you're not going to get. So
Anthony McFarland when he comes back from IR.
Freiermuth.
I guess we're just completely sleeping on Zach Gentry.
Oh wow.
Freiermuth's stat line is going to be like Jerome Bettis, 1 yard, 1 rushing touchdown. He's going to have 2 catches a game and 2 touchdowns, total of like 19 yards every game the entire year.
Yeah, I think Pat could have fantasy relevance in the future, especially if like Juju leaves after the season's over, gets past that rookie wall. I'm just saying. I mean, I think that's the path for him. I love Juju. But it's like, all right, like if he's kind of like that third target, what's the life after Ben going to look like? Who knows? But I don't think it's going to be this season. I mean, just from a historical perspective, rookie tight ends really don't have the relevance in the league. We will get some action from him. I don't think he's going to go 0 touchdowns, but there wouldn't be a week in the lineup. Even if Ebron got hurt, I don't think that he's somebody that I would be comfortable starting. So we'll see.
PPR, Javonte Williams, Trey Sermon, or Nyheim Hines?
Assuming that's for week 1.
Could be it could be week 1. It could also be just drafting which one to draft. Let's assume it's week 1 because I'm thinking at this point probably he's drafted. It's the same person that said about Najee and Pat. So
okay. So you have Javonte is going against the Giants, which is a plus matchup for him. You have Trey Sermon going against Detroit, which is a very that's as plus of a matchup as you're going to get this season because Detroit is god awful.
Yeah.
And then you have Indianapolis against Seattle. They're pretty much you're going to get an average performance out of them. Man,
this looks like a Nyheim Hines high-scoring game with Seattle. He's going to get a lot of targets.
Game script.
Yeah, game script.
Oh, so what you're saying is Jonathan Taylor doesn't have a top 15 week, and then all of a sudden we're on the path.
He's going to score 2 touchdowns. Not worried.
Oh, okay. No, but yeah, okay. First off, I'm just going to say if Raheem Mostert were not playing this week, I'd probably have Trey Sermon like my top 12 running backs for the week. This is tough though. Even like with Mostert there, if this gets into a situation where like they're blowing Detroit out and running the ball on every play, like we're going to see Trey Sermon as well. So it's tough. Like I don't think that it being PPR though is what's making me lean Nyheim Hines.
Javonte
Standard, I'd be between the other two, and I don't know who I'd pick between those two.
Right. I think for me, it's like we don't really know what Trey Sermon's role is going to be for San Francisco. He's probably the person that I put lowest on the list. He also has this like ankle injury that he's been dealing with, so he didn't play in the last preseason game because of it. So I would imagine that like a team that thinks that they're going to be competitive this year in the 49ers, if they do have him in their plans, they're probably not going to utilize him against the Lions because it's the Lions. I think Javonte has the safest floor personally. He's going to get some work. We don't really know how much, but with a plus matchup for the Giants, I think that you'll probably get anywhere from 5 to 10 points from him. If he catches a couple passes, can do whatever. Hines, I think, is kind of like you don't really know. He could not really do much of anything. And even looking at like Fantasy Pros right now, Williams is ranked 31st, Sermon is 32nd, and Nyheim Hines is 34th. Personally, I wouldn't be playing any of these dudes if I didn't have to. I think that there's more serviceable options, especially in a PPR league. I would rather probably go with like a wide receiver 2 that's probably going to get more targets that are guaranteed. But that's just me.
That's the thing is, he didn't even say like this is like a flex. This literally might be for like an RB2 spot where he has to play one of them.
Might just want to tank, just sell the farm. But no, I mean it's tricky because I mean you have a lot of lottery ticket value in Williams and Sermon. I mean if Mostert goes down, then Trey Sermon's a bona fide starter. If something happens with Melvin Gordon, or they say that all right, Javonte, you're going to get the keys to the kingdom, then there's a lot of good things that can happen there. But it does make things more difficult in the early part of the year when those roles haven't been defined yet. But if I have to pick one, I'm probably going to take Williams unless I'm like probably going to lose and I need something big to happen, then I'd probably throw Hines in there. Because like Drew said, I think it's a good game script for him to get some work.
Oh, what are the what time slate are these games in? That's what I want to know.
Okay, let me check.
Do you guys think that there's a world where Javonte Williams is getting the goal line work over Melvin Gordon?
No, I don't think so. Mm-mm. Let's see here.
1 o'clock game for the Colts and Seahawks. 1 o'clock for Niners and Lions.
4:25 Broncos and Giants. I'm picking Javonte because of that.
Just because it's later?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You'll have a more clear picture on what both fantasy teams are doing up to that point.
Yeah, fair.
When it's like flip of a coin like that, I'm going with the player that plays the latest. Might be a terrible strategy, but hey.
We did not include this in the lineup construction portion of the show. We're just making that known.
Yeah, we did not include that in the lineup construction. Do not follow along. I'm not advising anybody to follow along with that strategy. I'm just saying that is what I've done in the past. Okay, so let's talk about some injuries then.
Okay.
Drew, I think Dr. Drew, he's not wearing his lab coat or anything today, but I think that you were really the one that wanted to talk about some of these, like Saquon Barkley. I know that you're worried about his workload, so let's just talk about it.
Yes, so earlier during our draft shows, I was okay with taking Barkley in the 6 to 8 range. I'm very worried about Saquon this week, though. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to find a way out of playing him in a couple of my leagues. My biggest concern is that he still hasn't technically been cleared to play. And the other big thing is that they play the following week in week 2 on Thursday night. There's a real possibility that he only has 15 snaps in this game. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not playing a running back who's only having 15 snaps. Maybe he only gets 5 or 6 carries. So I'm trying to find a way out. I don't know what – it's going to depend on what your roster is constructed like. But if you could find a way – if you had a third running back that you were thinking about flexing and throwing him into your RB2 slot and then throwing a wide receiver in there, I would definitely consider it. I know we say start your studs, but this is the fluid situation, and we'll know more later in the week, but there's a real possibility that he's only playing 15 to 20 snaps on Sunday.
As a fantasy owner of Saquon, I want to see him out there, obviously. If I were a Giants fan and didn't own Saquon in fantasy, I'd probably just say let's hold him out until week 3. I mean, but here we are.
It's a tough matchup, too, like we said, against Denver. I think we're going to see a lot of Devontae Booker.
I'm like listening to this right now because I'm in this exact situation. Like, I have to decide myself what I'm doing with Saquon, and I picked up Booker because I had, the IR spot to put Michael Thomas in.
Week 2, they play on the road at Washington on Thursday Night Football then.
That's
even worse.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's a top 5 defense.
But here's the thing. You don't need Saquon to run for 100 yards for him to have a good fantasy game. He could catch 10 dump-off passes.
He can take one carry to the house.
Right.
It's real tough, but it depends on
I feel like I'd have to have a ridiculous running back stable to not play Saquon.
Right. Yeah,
I personally was thinking on Jamal Williams playing for Deandre Swift, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. So
this week, the overall consensus of all experts is that Saquon is 14th. Denver's an average matchup, projected for 16.4 points in full PPR.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's interesting, but here's the thing. Here's the great thing about all this, right? You said it's a fluid situation. If you follow us at AT412 FF show, you can just follow along with the situation as more and more news comes out and this thing develops, because we'll tweet with you guys and let you know as it develops. So just do that and then you'll know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? All right, moving along to the next piece of injury news. You just mentioned Deandre Swift, so I guess we might as well go there. I know that it's been up in the air. Head coach Dan Campbell wouldn't commit to him playing in week 1 for a while there. I mean, what's the situation now with DeAndre Swift? What's your comfort level playing him?
Dan Campbell came out today and said that he will be playing in week 1. I was a little concerned with him because they said he's not conditioned to play week 1. He's struggling with that groin injury for most of the
season. Is that like Lions reporters or what? Who was saying that?
Yeah, Lions reporters. It's been reported on ESPN that he's having some conditioning issues. Dan Campbell actually came out last week and said that they were concerned about his conditioning. But he said that he's good to go. I still think that it's going to be a committee approach, and he's going to lose some touches to Jamal Williams. So I'm fading him a little bit, but he's going to play. So if you have to roll him out there, it's a lot better of a situation than it was probably 5 or 6 days ago.
Yeah, for sure. So when asked about it, he pretty much said we got all their guys back. Everyone's healthy at the right time. We got them all going. So hopefully we'll be clicking. Super big coach speak. And he said that Swift and Brockers should both be ready to go on Sunday. So Brockers on the defensive side of it. Their biggest concern, at least from what they've been saying this week, is they're worried about that they have everything that they need to be successful since he wasn't a part of any of the preseason stuff. So it's like how he got a new quarterback, he got a new coaching staff. So there's a lot of new pieces for them and getting used to the terminology on the offense and all that stuff. But I think Swift will play. I think that he'll be the lead back for that tough matchup out the gate against San Francisco. So that's definitely a fade for me just because I don't think he's going to do a lot. Just like Drew said, they're going to ease him back in, and just the matchup, it's pretty tough. I would maybe use him as a flex if I needed to, but he's not somebody that I'm too high on going into this week, especially if that game gets out of hand.
Notice DeAndre Swift not at the bottom of the screen here on the Fritter ticker, our top 10 running backs.
Absolutely.
So never even considered
that. Never even considered it. Who's the other one to talk about here? Okay, well, we mentioned kind of the Tampa Bay situation, right, with Chris Godwin, AB on here as well. What's going on with the Tampa Bay situation? We kind of already touched on it, but any more to add than we already have?
I mean, we'll know more the next couple of days. We'll be tweeting about it. AB though, I don't have any concerns about him. They said pretty flat out that it's just a maintenance thing. So it's really just worried about Godwin and what his status will be on Thursday.
Okay. We mentioned, the chemistry that Trevor Lawrence had built with Marvin Jones Jr., a lot due to the absence of this guy, DJ Chark. What's his status as we approach week 1?
So he'll be easy. He's ready to go.
Yep. Back 100%. Fingers looking good. Coach Meyer have been praising his catching and ability and effort in practice this week. So he should be a full go. It'll be interesting to see how he gels with the offense. A lot of potential breakout players in that receiving room, although I wouldn't call Marvin Jones a breakout player per se, but there's a lot of different ways that offense could go. I think it's going to make things a little bit easier for Lawrence. So they'll have 3 solid receiving options. And that obviously is going to help James Robinson as well, so they can't just crowd the box. So,
I think DJ Chark could be a good DFS play this week. They have an amazing matchup, and you want to pick guys in DFS that not a lot of other people are starting, and a lot of people are going to forget that DJ Chark exists. You could throw him in the lineup and maybe catch a couple touchdowns and maybe have a big day for you.
Was it 2019 that he had his really nice year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would expect that to happen, but who do you think? I know this might be a little bit off topic. It's not injury related. This is stick with the DJ Chark thing. Who's the wide receiver to own for you guys in that Jacksonville room? Is it DJ Chark now that it looks like he's 100% ready to go, or do you side with the floor of Marvin Jones Jr. or the breakout ability of Laviska Shenault?
Yeah, 2019, he was number 17 wide receiver. He had 73 receptions, a little over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. With the QB situation last year, he was wide receiver 48. I think
Chark injuries last year too.
Yeah, Chark struggled last year with injuries. Quarterback play obviously not so great. I would say that Marvin Jones Jr. still is probably the best receiver on that team. I think Laviska is a fantastic athlete. I think that they'll find gadget ways to use him as a Percy Harvin type player. But is he going to do enough to be fantasy relevant? I'm not sure if I necessarily see that off the cuff. Obviously things can change, but I would probably go with Marvin Jones Jr. if I had to pick one right now.
Yeah, Marvin Jones is definitely the safer option, in my opinion. But I think that DJ Chark could have a comeback season and surprise some people, kind of like a Cortland Sutton type thing. He was forgotten about from last year, and he could come out and break out with a better quarterback in Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, not a bad place to start, too. They're playing Houston. They were the fourth worst defensive DVOA team last year, so not a bad way to start the season for that team.
Okay, so a couple more injuries to talk about. Noah Fant, I mean, we just mentioned the Denver Broncos, Cortland Sutton. Noah Fant, what's going on with him as we get close to week 1?
Yeah, so Noah Fant should be good to go. They were a little bit worried about the leg going into this week. He's been practicing. He should be playing. So he's been ranked pretty much in that like lower half of the top 10 going into week 1. We're expecting him to be a full go. Shouldn't have anything too crazy outstanding. He's been practicing fine. As far as his matchup goes, though, let's take a look here and see what we got. I can get back to y'all on the matchup if you guys have anything. So they're playing the Giants. So it's like an average graded out matchup for tight ends. He's projected to have 9.7 points. I don't believe it. I think he's going to go under projections, but that's just more of a fade on the way they utilize him and not based off of the status of his injury.
I think he's touchdown dependent this week. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. He's going to have to score to get to that number.
Yeah, he came in tied with Higbee and Henry at the back end of our top list here. I know I didn't have him in my top 10, I don't think, so must have just been how you guys had him in there that averaged that out. But, okay, the last one to talk about then is going to be Josh Jacobs. What's going on with him? Do we see a little bit more Kenyon Drake, or no, is he good to go?
So they held Jacobs out of practice on Monday and Tuesday this week. So we're not sure if this is like a rest tactic or if something came up in the past week. I think it's something to monitor, but I'm anticipating that Josh Jacobs is going to be good to go. I think similar to what we were talking about earlier with the AB issue, that we're seeing is something similar with Jacobs. He's somebody that's gotten a lot of work the last couple of years. They want him to be fresh for the opening game.
He does have the extra day, too. They're on Monday night.
Yeah.
Right.
So. I don't know if this is true or not, but I read on Twitter that he is actually away from the team and it might just be a personal matter. So if it's not related, we don't have to worry about that at all then. I think
they just tweeted an hour ago that he's expected to be back at practice on Thursday. So
I think he's away from the team for a personal matter and he should be good to go.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's good.
Okay, last couple things news-wise, not injury-related, but Latavius Murray being released by the Saints. There was some rumors of this happening, so I guess I was just kind of surprised that it happened now and not when they cut their roster down to 53 initially. But here this is, and then Le'Veon Bell signing with the Baltimore Ravens. What's the fantasy impact of this, if anything, with either one of those moves?
Sure. Yeah, I think Murray will sign with another team. He had his best season last year. I think he averaged 4.5 yards a carry. When Kamara has been out of the lineup, he's been a bona fide fantasy running back. So I do think that he lands somewhere. That being said, you're going to get stocks up on Tony Jones Jr., who becomes the de facto number 2 for the Saints. So if you were holding Murray as a handcuff for Kamara, then you're probably going to want to swap those shares out. Like Tyler just mentioned in the chat, he refused a pay cut, and the Saints are pretty strapped for cash. So they're kind of pushing money, trying to figure stuff out. So that's going to take a hit. But I don't think that he's going to go somewhere and become like a starting running back. So to me, it's like I would rather let go of that lottery ticket. You're really only keeping him for Kamara. He could land somewhere, but he was in the ideal of a situation as he could have been now. And I think anything else is going to be worse off than he was before.
Unless he goes to Baltimore, which before the Le'Veon Bell signing, I still think that's possible. Bell's not going to be fantasy relevant. We can just nick that in the bud right away. But I think there's still a possibility Latavius Murray can find his way over in Baltimore if he clears waivers. And that would be the only opportunity, I think, in the NFL where he could become fantasy relevant.
Does he play special teams?
No.
Okay, then I don't think it'll happen. I don't think they would have
signed
Bell.
Only because I have a friend who's a fan of the team. I know Washington might be looking for a bruising type back. He might fit the mold of a sense. Yeah.
Kind of being the Adrian Peterson of last year kind of thing. Yeah.
He would be an upgrade on what they had in Peyton Barber last year.
Right. Exactly. Because when Justice Hill went down, he was a special teams person. So I don't think they're going to bring in a third running back because Williams, as far as I know, doesn't play special teams, so they're not going to bump him out. He's been pretty good in the preseason anyway. So I think Lev getting signed eliminates the Murray hype for me to Baltimore.
Okay. Anything else that we had? I think that was pretty much it. Unless you guys have something else, I just want to run through the ticker one more time on each position, and maybe like if there's something that jumps out to us with the way that we rank these guys for this week, we can just bring that up. So let's go quarterbacks. You guys can see scrolling across the bottom right now. I don't think that there's anything like that stands out too much to me. I think Brady at 4 might surprise some people based off where he's projected to be season long. But I don't see maybe Jalen Hurts takes people as surprise. But again, with that rushing ability he provides, he's going to add like 5 to 7 points a game just on the ground. Like that's what he's going to be a viable fantasy option.
Jalen Hurts also has Atlanta this week, which is a fantastic matchup for quarterbacks. So that plays a big role into that as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think that there's anything else there unless you guys see something that's, jumps out to you. I think that that's pretty standard.
No, I don't think there's anything too crazy there. Drew, if you got anything to add, I had one more point that I was going to make that wasn't really related, so I'll hold off on it.
The only thing there is I think Josh Allen had a little bit of a fade, a little bit farther back at 5.
Yeah.
I've actually seen I have a league where someone's sitting Josh Allen this week.
Really?
Yeah, playing Jalen Hurts.
Are they a Steelers fan?
No. Actually, Ravens fan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Go
ahead, Joe. You said you were going to say something. Was it about the quarterbacks, though? Should I bring the quarterbacks back up?
Oh, no. It was fine. Okay. I was just something that we don't have on the tickers is like defenses. Teams that I'm looking at, if you are in a position where you might need to stream a defense, you didn't get one of those top teams. I think teams that you can look at would be like the Panthers. So they're playing the Jets. They should have a pretty solid projection. One that might surprise some people would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think that Houston has much of a formidable passing attack. I think they're going to run the ball a lot, so that's going to eat into the time of possession. And then one last one that may or may not have been drafted would be the Dolphins. So those are like my 3 streams for the week. I anticipate that like teams like the 49ers, Rams, Patriots, Buccaneers have probably already all been taken. So if you're looking for like an option, if you have the Steelers going up against the Bills, or if you have one of those tougher matchups, if you have the space on your bench, you might be able to throw one of these teams in. So if you're not feeling comfortable playing them, or maybe you have settings that are really not beneficial to say have the Steelers against the Bills week 1, something like that.
Yeah, I really like the Jaguars one, and I know that there's leagues that you get like a base points, right. So it's like 10 or whatever, just for them having a shutout, and then it goes down from there. So if they don't give up like any points to Houston, that gives them a solid fantasy floor to begin with.
Yeah.
Without them even getting any turnovers or sacks.
Right.
Tyler said, do you see Kenneth Gainwell having a natural role in Philly? That's interesting just because like at least it's a new head coach, so it's like hard to say what they're going to do. But like the previous regime just would never actually commit to Miles Sanders as a 3-down guy. And now Kenneth Gainwell is there, who's like a top 3 pass catching option in this draft class among running backs. So like are they still doing the exact same thing where it's like Miles Sanders still isn't going to be catching passes? Maybe Kenneth Gainwell does carve out a role for himself there. But who knows? They'll probably end up giving the ball to Boston Scott like 25 times a game by week 6.
I did see an article this week that said that Gainwell is carving that role. I think it's going to be a slow burner, though. I don't think he's somebody that's going to come in week 1 and just like tear the bricks off of things. I also don't think he's going to turn into, say, like a Kamara where like 4 weeks in he just takes over the season. But I do think that Gainwell does have some relevance. He's someone that's like a nice stash on the bench if you have the space for it. Boston Scott doesn't worry me. We know what Boston Scott is.
I was just making a joke there about Boston Scott. It just seems like for whatever reason he keeps.
Well, that was just said in the comments actually.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about Boston Scott. I think that like he might step in like the role that Gainwell will take will be the Sproles role, which had fantasy relevance for a time. And if he can pass block, I think that's going to be the key to his season. If he can't pass block, they're not going to put him on the field. He's not going to get those opportunities. But if he holds his own, then you could see him getting some time. And Jalen Hurts, I don't think, is the most accurate quarterback. So having options where he can just dump off and make easy plays, they should be designing offense around that. Or at least that's what I would be doing.
Looking at the ticker here, though, with the running back rankings, again, I don't see anything that like jumps off the page to me. Like, oh, this is crazy that we have this guy ranked here this week. I don't know. I mean, we got a rookie in here, Najee Harris, coming in tied at 7th. But Joe, was he in your top 10, or is he just in there because of being him? Okay, yeah, I figure me and Drew probably helped get him into that spot then. I'm following the workload. I just expect him to have that much volume.
Oh wait, I lied. I have him as 8.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah, I had him, I think 7, where he ended up being
as well.
Okay. Makes sense then.
Yeah.
But other than just the fact that there is a rookie there, I don't see anything that's out of the ordinary.
I like Gus Edwards a lot this week. I think I'm the only one that had him in my top 10. I think the Ravens get up early and he just gets a ton of work. Game script.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a blessing and a curse, I feel like, though, because it's like since they've already had 2 running backs go down, do they pull him and put the backup in because of that? It'll be interesting to see for sure. But yeah, he has some solid standalone value. Vegas is trash against the run, so that's definitely a plus matchup for him.
I forgot about something.
Uh-oh.
I mean, we real quick, Joe, you responded with it for a Twitter thing, the pick'em or frick'ems that we were gonna do. Let's just go through some of these real quick. I think that people will be interested to see this segment take place. It can be something that we keep doing each week if you guys like it. So let us know if you how you felt about this. Of course, last week we did the fantasy football Tinder. But okay, so pick 'em or frick 'em. We got some guys listed here. If you like the matchup, if you play this guy, then you'd pick him. If not, Joe frick 'em. Allen Robinson versus the Rams, Sunday Night Football.
Pick him. I think that from a volume perspective, I think he's going to pull a classic rookie Allen Robinson performance, do nothing for 3 quarters, and then ball out in the 4th because they are going to relax the coverage. But I think it's going to be a tough game for the Bears. I think that Andrew Dalton is going to struggle just a bit.
Andrew.
Yes. It was a serious business. His job's a little here, so... Yeah, I would take Allen Robinson. I think he's going to be a top 5 target person for the season in a full PPR scenario. Volume is king. So even though the Rams have a tough matchup, I imagine Ramsey will shadow him for the most part. I think his floor is safe enough that I still feel comfortable playing him.
Darnell Mooney better.
Maybe this week.
Drew, are you picking him? Or are you fricking him?
I'll pick him. Just because he's a stud. You got to play your studs in week 1. But it's yeah. Andy Dalton's going to get murdered. He may not leave that field. He might just get buried in the ground and left there.
Here it is. I'm excited to hear the words come out of your mouth. Deandre Swift for San Fran. What are we doing with him?
Frick him.
Frick him.
I'm seasoned frick him on Swift. I love the guy as a player, but Detroit is just, they are selling the team off. They have nothing. I don't think it's going to be pretty. They've said he's gotten better at pass protection, but I don't believe it. I got to see it first.
I think he's James Robinson from last year, but I absolutely frick him this week. There's no chance I'm starting him.
Ricky's boy. I threw this one in here at the last second. Justin Herbert versus Washington.
He was outside my top 10, so based on pure numbers, I frick him. I just like 10 other guys ahead of him this week based on matchups.
Yeah, I would say I would frick him too. I would rather stream someone like Matt Ryan against Philly, maybe. Could be throwing the ball a lot. Washington is just so good defensively. It's a negative matchup for them. And if they're not top 10 from a quarterback perspective, there's probably someone that's going to do pretty close to that. So
he didn't come in on our top 10, as you can see at the bottom right now in the Fricker ticker as well. So frick him. He's not in the Fricker ticker. You mentioned that Atlanta-Philly matchup right there. What about a tight end playing in that game? Dallas Goedert going against the Atlanta Falcons.
I love the matchup against the Falcons. They're so bad against tight ends. They were the worst team against tight ends last year. I actually really like Zach Ertz as like a DFS play this week. Goddard is now listed as the starter, but I think when they go into the 2 tight end sets, you're still going to see Goddard line up on the end and Ertz in the slot. So I actually like both Philly tight ends going into this week. So I would pick both of them. And I'm not saying start Zach Ertz in like a true fantasy league, but if you're looking for a cheap tight end from a DFS play, he could have a sneaky game against Atlanta.
I agree. I was going to say the same thing about Ertz as a potential DFS play. And another dart throw DFS play, there's a lot of buzz that I read online about this. Dan Arnold or Ian Thomas as the Jets. They were the second worst team against the tight end last year, and they gave up 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Darren Waller last year. There's a potential for one of those guys having some sneaky work and maybe getting touchdown as a cheap DFS option as well.
And Dan Arnold is Carolina Panthers, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Darnold to Arnold. Last one I want to bring up because, Joe, you actually mentioned that there was a starting running back name for this team just today. Tevin Coleman named the starter. So what do you do with a guy like Michael Carter going against Carolina, who actually became like a popular PPR pick as like a third running back? Maybe some people thought they could use him as a flex.
Right.
For week one, what are we doing with him?
I mean, you got to frick him. I mean, if you look at where he was getting drafted, he was like an 8th-round pick. So he was going around like Fournette, Zach Moss, maybe like Ronald Jones. People thought that he was just going to take over that role as the starter. But when they named Tevin Coleman, I think that they have 3 running backs that are going to get touches on Sunday. So you have Coleman, you have Tevin Johnson, and then you have, what's his name? Michael Carter. So who knows how that shakes out. I'm more of a wait and see. I wasn't crazy about any of the Jets running backs to begin with, but Tevin Coleman, I mean, he's had some pop in his career. He did well in Atlanta. A little bit injury-ridden the last couple of years, particularly in San Francisco, but we'll see how much he has left in the tank. So, frick him.
Frick him. That's an easy one.
Well, that's all I got.
Easy frick.
That's an easy frick. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. The last thing that we got to do is just wish everybody good luck as they head into their week 1 matchups. It's going to be a fun season. So, like I said, follow along at AT412FF show on Twitter. The link to that will be in the description, along with our own personal Twitter accounts for you guys to follow, ask us questions. Again, if you're going to tweet at us before 6 a.m., you can just direct that to Drew himself. But other than that, I don't think I got anything else unless you guys do.
Good luck. If you guys have questions before the 1 o'clock matchups on Sunday, I'm going to be bored waiting for that game to start. So hammer them away.
Yeah, Sunday morning, like you guys will notice, we're not going to do too much like start sit stuff just because we're going to have like the rankings going at the bottom. So just pick the player that's ranked higher. But that on Sunday mornings, if you want to tweet at us questions like that you might not see because of the rankings and stuff, definitely that would be the time to do that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Joe, anything else to add?
No, I'd say we'll be keeping things fresh with like news or anything that comes in leading into those games. So we'll definitely have a lot of content coming into the weekend. Pretty responsive as far as questions go. So if you have something, just hit us up. We're happy to help. Unless you're playing against us, then we might try to steer a different direction. But I'm excited to have football back. It should be fun. And don't panic regardless of whatever happens week 1. It's only 1 week, so we're here for the long haul.
True.
These guys,
it is go time.
Stay healthy.
It's go time. Yeah. Pray for the health of all your players, not just for a fantasy perspective, but just a real life perspective. Hate to see stuff happen like we just saw recently with JK. Already like 3 really good running backs going down before we played a snap here this season. So part of the game, I guess, but you always hate to see it, regardless if it's your team or a rival. Other than that, we are 4 episodes into this thing already. We can't wait to get the season rolling with you guys and continue on this train. Thanks for the support that you've shown us so far. We can't wait to continue to do this thing with you each and every week throughout the NFL season. So for Smitty, for Drew, for Joe, we will see you next time. Until then, good luck and bye-bye.